guys, welcome back to another episode of Listography. Today we're going to be talking about Josh Rouse, singer-songwriter. Came out in the late 90s, has been putting out albums pretty consistently ever since. He's got 12 studio albums to date, the most recent of which came out last year. So yeah, let's get into it. 12 records in total, and my least favorite at number 12 is going to be Josh Rouse and The Long Vacations. This album came out pretty quickly on the heels of an album of his called Teresa, and sticks to that record's mellow European vibes, but where that album felt like at least a semi-authentic take on the styles he was incorporating and adopting, here everything feels pretty watered down. This is easily his least interesting batch of songs, and the mediocre arrangements and half-hearted performances don't help to breathe any life into them either, making this his worst album by a pretty wide margin. So it gets much harder from this point on because the rest of his albums are all very good, but at number 11, I'm gonna go with Country Mouse City House. It starts off strong with the excellent track Sweetie. Hollywood Bass Player was a good single, and Italian Dry Ice and God Please Let Me Go Back are pretty solid as well. However, the back half of this record isn't as strong as the front, and this record doesn't really have a sound of its own to stand out among his other records, making it slightly forgettable. Still a good record, but not one of his best, and that's why I'm putting it down at number 11. But moving up to number 10, I'm going with his second most recent record called The Embers of Time. Most artists can only make the same record so many times before it starts to get a little old. That's why Rouse's detour into Spanish language and bossa nova tinged pop was such a welcome one. Upon returning to his usual 70s singer-songwriter sound on the Happiness Waltz, he sounded renewed and reinvigorated. On that album's follow-up, The Embers of Time, just one record later, he already sounds like he's running short on ideas again. Some Days I'm Golden All Night, New Young, and Time are all excellent tracks, but overall there's not much that's new or interesting on this record. At number 9, I have his debut album, Dressed Up Like Nebraska. This is a very strong first effort introducing us to his particular brand of songwriting. This record is much simpler from a production standpoint than any of his other records, mostly just guitar, bass, and drums with occasional keys. This record also has that sort of late 90s alt country thing going on. You can hear sort of like AM era Wilco guitar tones on the title track. He would refine and polish his sound a lot on subsequent albums, but this is a good album in its own right. Dressed Up Like Nebraska, Invisible, and Late Night Conversation are my favorite tracks from the record. And one spot up from there, I'm going with the album Home, which was his sophomore record. Still not a fully formed representation of his sound, but definitely a step forward in the production department with more keys, horns, and strings, and overall just a fuller sound and a better mix than on his debut. The best tracks are Laughter, Direction, and a slow, moody, deep track that I love called In Between. At number 7, I'm going to go with The Happiness Waltz. As I mentioned before, this record was a return to his usual sort of 70s AM gold type sound after dabbling in the influence of his new home in Spain. Sonically, the record sounds great, and it's really well produced. The album opens with one of his all-time best songs in Julie Come Out of the Rain, and there are other gems like This Movie's Way Too Long, and a trio of songs, Purple and Beige, The Ocean, and The Happiness Waltz, that close the album. That are great. All in all, it's a great return to form after what I think was his worst album. It's a great bounce back, but not quite enough to compete with his best work. At number 6, I have his most recent record from last year, Love in the Modern Age. Josh breaks out the synthesizers on this record. It's a great and welcome change of pace for the songwriter. Breaking out the electronics also seems to have refreshed his songwriting, trading in the natural instrumentation of most of his earlier efforts for something a bit more superficial has opened him up to a whole new set of characters to explore, sort of those who inhabit the sort of seedier neon-lit nightlife. It's kind of a difficult perspective to write from with an acoustic guitar, but with the keys, it works really well. My favorite songs on this record are Salton Sea, Businessman, and I'm Your Man. At number 5, I have the record Subtitulo. Josh Rouse was already known as a mellow, soft rock guy in the vein of many 70s singer-songwriter acts that preceded him when he put out this even mellower and softer record. His first record after moving to Spain, this is about as relaxed and breezy as a record can get. As a result, there aren't many songs here that stand out as career highlights or anything like that, but taken as a whole, this record just kind of washes over you and it makes you just feel good. It looks like love, and Giving It Up are my favorites from this record. At number 4, I have the record Teresa. His top 4 albums to me are on another level from all of the others, all really great. This album opens with an instrumental. It has 4 songs that are sung in Spanish, and it dabbles in bossa nova, tropicalia, and samba. There are lush strings and Latin percussion throughout. This is by far his most adventurous record, and in a lot of ways his riskiest, but to me it all pays off. I think this is just an absolutely beautiful record. One of my favorite records the year that it came out. I listened to it a ton back in 2010, and it still sounds great today. If you're looking for a singer-songwriter record with a little bit of a different flavor, I just couldn't recommend this album enough. At number 3, I have the album Under Cold Blue Stars. This one is where everything just really clicked. The songwriting and production both take a step forward on this record. The hooks are just undeniable, but not too poppy. Nothing Gives Me Pleasure, Miracle, and Feeling No Pain are still some of the best songs he's ever written, and there aren't really that many weak tracks on this record either. It's just a really great singer-songwriter record from the early 2000s. At number 2, I have the record Nashville. I think the first Josh Rouse song that I ever heard was It's the Nighttime, which is the song that opens this record. I think I first heard it though on a CD sampler that came with a music magazine that I got at Barnes & Noble. Or something like that. And the second I heard it, I was like, okay, I'm all in on this guy. I got to go back and listen to everything. I think that's still probably my favorite song of his, but there's a lot more than that on this record. Winter in the Hamptons is great, as is Carolina, Middle School Frown, Sad Eyes. The list goes on. Just one of his best efforts overall, but not the best. That honor goes to the record 1972. This record came out in 2003, which was just before my musical taste started to change dramatically. You know, I think I'm going to do a video about my musical journey at some point, talk about what bands I loved at different points in my life, to maybe give some insight on what has shaped my tastes and opinions. We'll see. Let me know if you'd be interested in something like that. But anyways, I missed out on this record by a few years. Like I said, I didn't hear Josh until his next record, Nashville. But when I went back into his back catalog and found 1972, it was just like, wow, what a record. The production, the arranging, the singing. I almost couldn't believe what I was hearing, or that it came out in 2003. Like the title suggests, this record sounds like it traveled through time from the early 70s. To be honest, there are songs from Nashville and Under Cold Blue Stars that I like probably more than anything on this record, but this record is just a really complete experience. So well produced, really nails the sort of 70s AM gold sound, really focused and solid songwriting. So I give the edge to 1972 and call it Josh Rouse's best album. So that does it for my listography of Josh Rouse. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, or hit the bell so that you get the notifications. But most importantly, please comment below. Tell me your favorite Josh Rouse albums, songs, anything like that. Also tell me maybe what videos you'd like to see me do in the future. And thanks for watching.